the best thing to do is be in the conversation. And you'll automatically get access to a lot of different appointed appraisers that have a lot of good ideas and background and all of that stuff. And you can't help but get better.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out once again in the podcast chair. So good to have each and every one of you out there. I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by two great companies. Of course, A La Mode being the first. And from the beginning, always sponsor of this program. And it's the software, of course, that I use to, be so efficient. Check them out. Go to alamode.com or 800-ALA-MODE. And we are sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP is my E&O of choice for the past several years. I will continue to use E&O from OREP. It's orep.org, OREP.org. I want to welcome to the program, good friend of mine, member of the All-Star team, an appraiser in the Bay Area since 2014, Mr. Kyle Paquin. Kyle, welcome.
All right. Thanks, Dustin. It's good to be here. Very honored to be on with you.
It's good to have you as well. I have to say, as a member of the All-Star team, everybody on YouTube is looking at your background and they're saying, wait a minute, that guy's got bank boxes in the background. Is this guy really following the appraiser coach?
Yeah, well, I promise you I have changed to a now since 3.5 years ago, but you know how it
5 years
files. So
you're shredding those as the time expires, right?
Yeah, every month I get to take a box down. It's great.
That's awesome. A little celebration, take a box down and cheers to that one and fire it up. Very good. Kyle, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mentioned you're in the Bay Area. That's a tough place to appraise in. Talk to me about your background and why you got into this.
Yeah, definitely. So I got into this just like a lot of people did. I knew a guy who was savvy enough to train me, which is a rarity for sure. And I was working some, lame job selling suits to rich people. And I
remember hearing this conversation. I remember you telling me this.
Yeah. So, I needed something better. And as I talk to people who are trainees and the trainees that I've trained, it's mostly that. It's not that they're getting in to make $1 bajillion per se, though you can make a good living.
Sure.
It's that they want the hours, they want the flexibility, and they want the kind of lifestyle that we have. It's sort of the perfect thing.
Right. There's a lot of people that don't feel that way. So I'm really glad that you put that out there, that we have to step back once in a while and understand why it is that we got into this. So for you, it wasn't necessarily the money, it was the flexibility, the freedom.
Yeah, definitely so. And I've been able to make a good living and buy a house in the Bay Area. So I say that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Now I just got to pay for it. But, part of that is being involved in the industry. So I'm an instructor and a board member for the REAA. That's the Real Estate Appraisers Association. It's the Northern California State Appraiser Association. And we most recently hosted the AXE conference.
Yes, you did.
And it was a fantastic conference. Those who didn't attend, you should. I think next year's in Colorado Springs. So cool. I'll be there. So maybe I'll see you.
So you bring up education. I know you're heavily involved in education. Talk to us a little bit about that. Not the why so much, but the what right now. What parts of education are you involved in?
So I construct courses that get approved by the Bureau of Real Estate Appraisers for California, and I teach those courses. I collaborate with other instructors in the area, and essentially we try to figure out what the best thing to teach is based upon the needs at the time. So, for example, I just recently put together a course on our studio. So that's a program that a lot of people use for data science and visualization and things like that. And it's really just like a hands-on thing. I've taught classes that I've put together for ADUs because California has really specific laws about ADUs that are totally different than Fannie Mae's requirements. And so like a lot of these nuanced sort of things that you usually don't really get in like places like McKissick or e-learning or something like that, that tend to be more national. Ours tend to focus in on more local things so that our appraisers have local education.
So how do you decide? You said, you're looking for things that appraisers need. How do you decide what types of things appraisers need?
It's really easy. You just ask them.
I love it. I love it. It's the same marketing tool that I've been telling people for years. How do you know what your clients need? Ask them, right? Have a conversation. So you must be pretty well connected with other appraisers if you can. I mean, most appraisers are saying, well, Kyle, I don't even associate with other appraisers. How would I ask somebody I don't even associate with?
So probably the biggest myth in the appraisal industry is that your peers are your competition.
Right.
And that's just not true. So being a part of an organization, I'm fortunate to have a local one. A lot of other states have coalitions and other sorts of organizations that you could be a part of. Even, the Appraisal Institute has, some very active chapters in parts of the United States. And being a part of a group like that, you learn a whole bunch of stuff that you didn't know before. You have people that do all sorts of business that you maybe don't, or you maybe want to get into. And really the only way to learn how to do it is to ask somebody who does it.
Why do you do it? And I know it sounds like a simplistic question, but let me back it up by saying I've been involved in appraiser education long enough to know that it's not the money, right? There's got to be a different passion when it comes to education.
Yeah. We really believe that we're better together than apart. And we all have different skills. And if we can put those different skills together, then we can elevate the entire industry. This is why we have conferences and why we, have things like this podcast. Is like we're all trying to help each other be better and get better. And sometimes one little idea, one little thing can make a huge difference in somebody's business or help them service a client even better. And after all, I mean, if we're here to maintain public trust at the end of the day and hold up transactions with, real scrutiny and a good evaluation, then we need to put our heads together and make sure we keep doing it right. Because if we don't, then, then there's no point in us doing it at all.
How do you have time to do that though, Kyle? I mean, I can imagine some of my listeners saying, hey, I totally agree with Kyle. I think that's great. I think education's wonderful. I don't just go for the CE. I go because I really want to and love learning. And I would love to be able to participate in teaching or developing courses or helping others to learn. But my hell, I barely keep up with my appraisals.
Well, I would probably say that maybe listening to people like you on how to get a little bit more efficient might help, for one.
Okay, fair enough.
And the other thing is just staying in the collaboration. I mean, you don't have to do everything yourself. Having some skills, in teaching and presenting and maybe putting together course outlines is fine. But, we have somebody who has kind of the ear of the bureau that approves all of this stuff. So they can tell us exactly what the outline needs to look like. And it's really not all that hard to get things approved. I don't know how it is in other states, how it is in your state, but they want people to do education.
Right.
Weird, right?
Yeah, go figure. they have requirements out there and they want them to be fulfilled, right?
Yeah. So, if you feel passionate about something, it doesn't take a whole lot to become a little bit more of an expert than your peers in something if you really just put some time in it. I think people have this misconception that they need to be some kind of college professor or like, take 80 books and read them all about a certain topic in order to teach it. And that's just not true. You just need to kind of spend some time and figure it out.
Figure it out. Well, one of the things that you mentioned is R. And I want to talk a little bit about that for a second. The first time I ever heard of it, I'm embarrassed to say it was much further into my career than it should have been, was with George Dell. I know you and I spoke a little bit off the air about George Dell, and you've taken some classes from him and followed some of the things that he has done. Talk to us about, George Dell's term data science, right? Talk to us about that. What about appraising would that ingredient fit into?
So data science is the essence of what appraisal really is. Because nowadays we can just take MLS data, which is plentiful and easy to get and fairly cheap now, and we can just run it through a program like RStudio or Power BI or something like that. And in 3 seconds, create multiple different graphical visualizations of various elements of that data, of a price index, of price in time going in a certain rate. Is it going up? Is it going down? We can plot the subject in what's called like a box plot and figure out whether or not it's normal in this range or if it's kind of up in the higher end or in the lower end. And all of these different things can communicate things to you as an expert appraiser that you can interpret for your clients. If you don't have access to that kind of stuff, if you're not able to do that thing, then you're just kind of guessing based upon your intuition. And your intuition might be pretty great because you might be a really experienced appraiser and you might know a lot about your local market, but it's not really about having all the head knowledge if you can't really explain it well to your clients.
I want to dive into that a little bit deeper, Kyle, when we come back from the break. We're talking with Kyle Paquin. He's out of California, specifically the Bay Area. And when we get back, Kyle, I want to talk about what that means into the future for appraisers, because there's a lot of changes that are coming down the pipe. Speaking of changes, Alamode is right, of course, on the top of all of the changes that are happening in the appraisal industry, specifically behind the scenes, developing the new generation of the forms and the UAD and some of the things that are coming out that you are going to need the top level tools to help you to be more efficient, as Kyle talked about. Folks, if you are with any other company, I would implore you to pick up the phone, call 800 Alamode and talk to them about what they have available and what they are developing. It's 800 Alamode, or you can jump on their website. It's, of course, alamode.com. How often do you think about your E&O? Not very often, probably once a year when you renew, and you always ask yourself, gee, I wonder if I'm getting the best deal. Well, folks, I can promise you that if you are not with OREP, the answer to that is no, you're not. Check them out by going to orep.org. Folks, not only will they give you great protection when the time comes, but they also have a number of different benefits that are different and exceed by far the benefits that you'll get with any other E&O company. You can find out more by going to their benefits page on their website. It's orep.org. That's OREP.org. All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Talking with Kyle Paquin out of California, specifically the Bay Area. Kyle, we talked a lot about your background, talked about your education, the fact that you are providing, creating education for appraisers. We talked specifically about statistics, data science, as you put it. Lots of change happening. By the way, welcome back. Thank you for being here.
It's nice to be here.
Really good to have you. A lot of change going on right now in the appraisal industry. As you know, we've got data collectors, we've got new forms, if you want to call them forms. We've got, we've got situations with the UAD and the way things are being done and Fannie Mae modifications. What do the two things we've stressed on today have to do with those changes? Education, data science. Talk to us.
So let me first talk about education, because when I was at the AX conference and hearing all the speakers speak and hearing questions from the crowd. We had a number of stakeholders there, including Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
Okay.
We had various people from the Appraisal Foundation, Appraiser Standards Board, AQB, all that stuff, reviewers from banks. And what was readily apparent was that the education that appraisers had as a whole was not quite adequate for the needs of the stakeholders in our industry.
You're being very nice. I'm going to state it bluntly. It sucks. Our education, our qualifying education, and our continuing ed, let's face it, in general, is not great.
Yeah, and part of it is, we're a lot of the times taking the same classes over and over to just satisfy requirements. And some of that I've heard is due to the difficulty in approving education throughout the multiple different states, different jurisdictions. It's egregiously difficult. There is a bill in Congress right now, I think it's called the PAL Act or something like that, that might change that, where the ASC is going to have basically able to say courses are approved throughout the United States, something like that. But what I'm trying to get at is that the stakeholders, they now have all of our appraisals, right? So Fannie Mae has 10 years plus years of all this data. And because they're into data science and they have data scientists on staff, they're looking at all of our work and they're going, this stuff doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And well, that is, kind of causing some of us to have pause and realize like, okay, maybe some of our adjustments are maybe not as supportable as we think they are. And I don't know necessarily if moving towards having rock solid adjustments is really what we need. I think we just need a better understanding of the entire requirements package. And I think that's why a lot of these changes are coming, because the stakeholders realize that they need something other than a 1004.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and Fannie Mae definitely has sent strong signals, if not to completely, put their foot down when it comes to forms. As we all know, coming very soon to a theater near you is the new system with Fannie Mae. It's not form based. It's more about development based appraisal, which I guess we should have always been anyway. And getting back to our roots and back to the basics of where do we come up with that $2,500 adjustment? Where do we come up with that $65 a square foot adjustment? Where do we come up with that, the fact that we don't adjust for this or do adjust for that? I think for many, many years, appraisers have understood that, but now, I hate to say it, we're going to be forced into that box, whether we want to be there or not, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what advice, Kyle, would you give as we get ready to close out today to appraisers if they, they're 48 years old, they've been doing this 25 years, they don't want to quit anytime soon. They might be frustrated with a few things. They don't really necessarily like change, but they know it's coming. They want to be relevant 10 years from now. What would the mighty Kyle say to that particular appraiser? By the way, a lot of that I just painted as myself. I would love to be around in the future. What should I do to get ready for what's coming?
So we don't all need to become the best appraiser in the country.
Only I can be that, I guess.
Sure. I'd like to just say that the best thing to do is be in the conversation. And part of that is getting involved in a local organization that's active in your area, whether that's a state coalition or whether that's the Appraisal Institute or whether that's the National Association of Appraisers or whoever is kind of in your sphere and in your line of work. And you'll automatically get access to a lot of different appointed appraisers that have a lot of good ideas and background and all of that stuff. And you can't help but get better. You can't help but learn something and maybe even make a little bit more money. Who knows?
Ooh, I love that. I love that. My friend, thank you. This has been great advice coming from somebody who who has earned the right to give the advice. The amount of work that you're doing as far as education, as far as being connected, these conferences, as far as understanding, true statistics, George Dell and some others that are out there teaching this stuff that can seem overwhelming. You've bit the bullet. You've understood it. You've educated yourself. You may not be perfect on it, but you're far above many of us. And I think that's going to make the difference, all the difference between those that are going to be around in 10 years and those that are probably going to fade off into the sunset. Kyle, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Dustin.
And with that, folks, we will close out. I appreciate you joining us today. If you are interested in joining the All-Star team, as Kyle is a member of, we would love to have you. If you want to be involved in the conversation, folks, that's where it's at. We are talking about this kind of thing. We're talking about many, many things within the industry, and we would love to have you be a part of that. Find out more at theappraisercoach.com. Again, it's theappraisercoach.com.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.